Hello, so I'm going to be explaining the Haedy-Weinberg equation. It's quite simple. So the Haedy-Weinberg equation, as you can see in your slide, it starts with p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equaling 1, which can be a little bit confusing because it's not plainly said. But the p squared, as you can see, is the dominant homozygous frequency. Homozygous meaning the same genus, which is the dominant, which is the AA, as you know in the Punnett square. And the Q squared is the recessive homozygous frequency, which is the lowercase AA. Just like in the Punnett square, we're saying that the homozygous is the same genus. And then in the middle is the 2pq, which is the heterozygous frequency, which is one dominant, one recessive. And this equation always equals to 1. There's also a equation that you have to know, which is 1p plus 1q equals 1. So that could look like right here. So p plus q equals 1. So an example that we could use in this Mendillian Genetics Haedy-Weinberg equation is, we can of course change the horses to something else, but say you have a population of 350 horses, 16%, which is in numeric terms 0.16, express the recessive phenotype. In this equation, we're asking how many are homozygous dominant. So we know that q squared equals 0.16, and if we dumb it down and put it to q, we equal it to 0.4. In your equation here, we only want the homozygous dominant gene, so we don't necessarily need this right here, this heterozygous. We can just take that out and use this simpler equation, which is p plus q equals 1. So we're asking for the homozygous dominant. We have the recessive. So if we dumb it down and we have the q equaling 0.4, we can, in this case, put 0.4 here, and then 1 minus 0.4 will get you p, which in this case is 0.6. So in this equation, we have to times it by 2. Then we will get our percentage for the p squared, which is the homozygous dominant. So p squared is 0.36, but we're not done. That's only the percentage. We are asked how many of the horses are homozygous dominant, meaning if we have the population and we have the percentage, we can find the total number, which means that 0.36 multiplied by 350 horses gives you 126 of the horses in this population are homozygous dominant. So how does this relate back to Mendillian genetics? Well, if we look at the definition of Mendillian genetics, it says that Mendelian inheritance is a type of biological inheritance. So it means that we're looking at inheritance patterns of certain genotypes. In this case, we could say that the recessive gene could be short legs on horses, and the dominant is longer legs on horses. Therefore, we can look at the genetic inheritance of the recessive, which is the short legs, and the dominant, which is the longer legs. And let's see. So that would mean that the dominant has a lot, because it's 36% of them have longer legs rather than the 16%. So we can infer that the dominant gene has some sort of evolutionary advantage towards for the horses than the smaller, shorter legs that are had by the 16%. But yeah, so the Mendelian genetics for this Haedy-Weinberg equation, you can connect it back to the fact that if we can track the percentage, we can infer what environmental forces or factors are affecting the inheritance of certain genes. And it just all, if you understand survival of the fittest, it kind of wraps up into this formula also. But yeah, that's basically all you need to know about the Haedy-Weinberg equation. And for the activity, I'm thinking this equation is actually really nice. We can totally use it. Like, okay, so I'm gonna keep the phone still so you can read it. But yeah, so I hope this helped, and yeah, bye.